What is the highest salary that a person has ever received using your company?
$70,000 per month.
So how many people have you been able to get jobs for from the time it started up till today?
20 to 25,000.
If you go to LinkedIn, for example, and say apply, you will see that there are 200 applicants, 300 applicants. Should the person even bother applying for that one, or?
No, always go for it, because we look at every single CV, because it's our system that shares the report. So go in there, present your application in a manner that speaks to the job. Even though it's 10,000 people, it will still pick it up.
At the time when you have collated all these CVs and gotten the cream from this process, are there some red flags that you might look at and from your experience know that this will not work and immediately throw it out?
We should know that if you have been hopping from job to job, you've got to show what was the difference.
Right.
If there was no difference, then you are a job risk. If you show you've worked in a role for long periods of time, then also show
when companies come to you, what mistakes do they make in the process that can help them have a better candidate or enjoy the process better?
Very important. Thanks, Albert. Some employers do not appreciate the process we follow. Now, one mistake that I've seen is some of them do not allow us to share our experience, because we are dealing with your competition. We're dealing with your potential competition. We're dealing with your former competition, all out there in the market. You're asking for a need. Ask us. In the process of recruitment, say, the person moves through as a code, candidate number. So the different phases, and the person who captures your details is not the one who is handling the process. And so that we have instituted, and it helped us greatly to reduce influence peddling.
When you are unblocking, or now showing the candidate,
yes.
Is the blackout up to the client? Because I would imagine that it comes up to the client, and the client also sees candidate number this, and then he says, bring me these candidate numbers, then the people appear that way.
That's correct.
For candidates who have managed to go through the sieves and in the interview process, what advice do you have for them to be able to get the offer? What should they do?
Tell us about yourself in this kind of environment. The second approach is, are you familiar with this particular problem statement? Explain from a technical perspective how you...
Is there something that an applicant can say or do that will significantly make them stand out, or at least spark your ears and say, wait, hold on, let's review this guy one more time?
Good question.
I saw from your profile that you had a very nice, illustrious career at the United Nations. This is considered a prestigious position by many. So I would like to understand the mindset that you had to move from that position to start this.
When I was working with the UN.
Thank you for coming on the show, Patrick. I'm very glad to have you here. Today, we're going to talk about jobs and everything to do with jobs. For those who do not know you, please introduce yourself and tell us what you do.
Patrick Kabahanga Mbonye is my name. I'm the CEO of Q-Sourcing Servtec Group. We operate in 5 countries across East Africa. That's Tanzania, Kenya, Uganda, Rwanda, and South Sudan. The services are typically recruitment, that's outsourced recruitment process, operations, employer on record services, the fully outsourced operations, which we call integrated project management systems. That's where it's output-based service. We also offer training, assessment and certification of particular trades to international standards. And we have recently acquired a platform to integrate all this, also called Flip Africa. Our training arm is called the Assessment and Skilling Center, and Flip Africa is our platform. The others are Q-Sourcing, and plus a joint venture we entered into with a company called Worldwide Recruitment Solutions out of the UK, specifically for the energy sector in Uganda. Also a partner at an equity firm, private capital firm called Nyota Capital. What I do on a day-to-day is I am the chief executive officer of a group called Q-Sourcing Servtec. It turns 19 years of existence this year. Wow. I'm also involved in environmental projects, tree planting and stuff like that. I love that. And my future, I'm looking more at supporting entrepreneurs through some savings that we're putting aside, a group of friends, so that we can invest in entrepreneurs who are going to have impact on the future. So yes, that's what I keep. That's what keeps my mind going. From the family side, I have children who are growing into adults now, so those are keeping me busy. And of course, working with their mother to make sure that we build responsible citizens, world citizens, that will also add to value for humanity. Yeah.
So, in terms of the Q-sourcing, what actually got you started on this Q-sourcing? I saw from your profile that you had a very nice, illustrious career at the United Nations. This is considered a prestigious position by many. So I would like to understand the mindset that you had to move from that position to start this.
When I was working with the UN, we supported individuals in rural areas who we believed were the constituents of the small and medium-sized enterprise economy. And we set up structures across the country, Uganda, specifically to establish centers of excellence where these individuals would go and get information and get guidance and basically build a repository of these institutions, of these companies and businesses. As we did this, I got more intimately involved in how they run their businesses, the challenges they face, and it grew on me that what really satisfied me was their continued satisfaction and their continued growth. But it also added to my history, my own self, because I've been very entrepreneurial, from back in the day when I was in St. Mary's. I always had extra grub that I would always make available for those who didn't have, but had cash. And I always knew that having some money would help me for the future. The future as soon as the next day. At that point, of course, I did imagine that the future involved the next year as a group.
I'm sorry. You used to sell grub, extra grub.
Yes.
Wow.
Well, I think I used to sell all my grub. I think that's when I was thin as a skeleton, but I had some money in my pocket, yes.
That's interesting.
So I learned that from my mother because she had a grocery store, and that's really what paid school fees. My dad came into my life a little later because he was in exile, but my mom was really the principal provider. And I realized early on that there were some struggles to meet the needs, and so it was important to have a continuous flow of income. She was employed, so that subsistence income was complementary. So seeing these people out in the different parts of the country engaged in their entrepreneurial activities, a lot of them collapsing along the way and yet involved in good business, a lot of them offering services and products that the community wanted and were willing to pay for. But always the question was, why do these guys always collapse? Some of them collapsing while the program is ending because the program always phased out. So I realized that there was a lot of dependency on these programs. So I was like, what can I do? There must be an opportunity. Of course, not to mention that working in these UN programs, it's always a zero budget affair. People get money to finish it. And yet that was conflicting with my mind, remember. Mine was saving, save. For the next day. Programs, from my perception, I'm sure it still happens. You don't carry forward any money. So I was like, okay, I've gotten the skill. I think it's time to use my skill now because I was very good with analytics. That's what I studied, economic analysis, econometrics. And so I went into the world of work. I initially started Q sourcing on the basis of providing business consulting services. However, those who worked with me, as I set up these structures across the country and recruited people to fill up these structures, came to me and said, we like your team, so help us to build our team. I'm like, so what do you want me to do for you? Help us recruit. And that's the first time I got to know that recruitment was a business. I had no idea. But it was a pain point. So it's like, okay, it's a pain point. Let me offer that pain solution. Let me give that pain remover. And I did what I was doing normally. But the costing, I asked the client to help me with the costing because I
you don't know. Yes.
Like, I can give you the solution that I'm very familiar with. I will do it to the best of my abilities. But tell me, how do you usually pay? And they told me, and I was like, okay, I'm happy with that. At least it covers my cost. It covered way over my cost because it was just my IP. But I kept on asking, but I want to do more serious things. I felt this is something that you can do on your own. But then I later realized, years later, that it's actually something that is...
It's a serious challenge.
It is a serious challenge, even the process of it. I thought that building big documents was where the challenge was and the need. But I quickly learned that these documents pile up dust. They need people to get them off the shelves and execute them.
Yes.
And that's where the challenge was. And that's where companies were collapsing. So that's really what got me across the line, because initially I was like, I can do it part-time. But once the ask came, I had given 3 months notice to
at
leave
the UN job.
At the UN job. And they're like, no, you can, if you want to start something, I mean, you can do it in your pastime. I was like, okay, let me try. But as soon as I tried, I was like, no, let me just go in. Let me just go in full. So a lot of people ask, how do we make the jump? One is I'd got to adjust my lifestyle and adjust it like from expensing 100,000 a day to expensing 10,000 shillings a day. Can I survive at that level? If I can, then I'm good. I'll survive. And that's a piece of experience share that I can share here, that when you're jumping, just know you're not jumping at the same level.
True.
Yeah, you're jumping. So it's not like you're jumping from this level to this level. No, you usually jump from this level to this level. Then you go up. Yeah.
The people collapse in the valley here before going up.
If you're not mentally prepared to jump here, then coming up is going to be a challenge. You always want to go back up here. Yes.
So, okay, now I understand how you got the idea from, the clients coming to you. That part I understand. And you see that it will be feasible. You've asked yourself, you'll be able to make the jump, you'll survive. Yes. Okay. How do you scale up from that initial valley position to come up to build it?
So, as I mentioned, I went in with my own assumption of a need. these guys need business support services, business and strategy documents. I will help them build them because I can do them very well. I get in, and the first pain point I'm given is I need the right person for this job. I could do it, so I did it, and I got paid for it, and I could do it really well. Now, I was conflicted. This is what I want to give, but this is what I'm being asked for. However, because my concern was always the success of my client, I always listened. I did not try to impose. And slowly, I subdued my own interests and focused on
what you were being told
of the client. And that's how we started recruitment. We went into employer on record, where we literally hold the contracts for the staff, but deploy them to the client premises. Went into fully outsourced operations, growing into a training arm, growing into digitizing what we do. All that was from the pain point. What do the clients need? Can we do it? Can we do it well? How do we do it better? Do it.
And iterating.
Yes.
If I'm a business today, and I need to hire maybe, 5 people, right, for a specific job, walk me through the process from need to actually having these people in the chair.
Very important. Thanks, Albert. Our first point of engagement is defining your need. And let me help clarify that giving me your JDs is not your need. The JDs define the person that you want in that role. That's not your need. Your need is what the person is coming to do. Okay? What the person is coming to do involves a couple of things. One of them is their technical competencies, which you've described very well in the JD. And the supporting paperwork, certificates, former workplaces, etc. The second thing is the environment they're going to work in. And here the case in point is some people will be working in the field, which means you are out there facing the environment. You've got to interpret the environment, whatever conditions there are. No day is identical to the other.
Sure.
No situation is identical to the other. So you've got to be able to interpret those conditions and apply your skill sets to that. Secondly, your state as a person. Your state meaning where you are in life. Can you live where you are and go to the field? Or do you need a place like this that has a fixed address and you would like that because of where you are in life? Where you are in life, maybe you've just started a family, or you do not want to move because of some ailment. There's things, right? Or your family ties, etc., etc. So define that, describe that. And last but not least, how do you reward performance? If an individual performs to your expectation, how do you reward them? So the need constitutes all these and have to be profiled. So you as the client will profile that need and then send out pointers to identify people that fit that profile, that can survive or operate in that environment. So once we've defined that, and that's usually the most critical thing. That's the most technical side of it. Because people our team that we send out to engage with the clients have to be able to extract that from the clients. And that's conversational. Sometimes the client cannot define it because they also don't understand it.
True.
So you've got to look at it from a reverse engineering angle. Because you have to write it down. And once you write it down, you share it with the client. And sometimes the client says, no. Either because if Your contact person is a middle-level employment, middle-level management, and it shows that you're exposing their gaps, their weaknesses. This person is actually coming to support them. They don't like to see it.
Of course.
So you may also have to be
there's a level of emotional intelligence at play.
Absolutely. So that's what I mean as the need. So we first define that and sequence how we're going to evaluate the candidates that apply. One will be the credentials of the person, because there's minimum entry, right? What skill set do we expect a person that would do well in this environment to have? And we list down, okay, minimum qualifications, minimum study, work experience, basically skill set. And that will involve requesting people to apply, including their CVs, their resumes, which should describe what they've done, what they've been able to study. And why we say study is that you're certified. If you have studied from a place that is not known to train people in those fields, you may be compromised because we need to validate.
Of course.
If we know the institution does this and is involved in research and developing their abilities to train, then we only confirm that you have that certificate. If we don't know the institution, then we now have to go into, does the institution actually do that? What are the credentials of the institution? Now that's a lot of work. So if we have people who already are coming from the institutions that clearly define what we need, then those will be preferred.
Of course.
And I say that for purposes of the applicants. Do not just go out looking for documents. Go to institutions that are known to excel in those fields. Now, people would say it's expensive. But, well, it's worse for you to commit 100,000 for an institution that is not recognized, is not known for that field, rather than paying 500,000 over time. Go to that institution and negotiate, because institutions are looking for people who are going to really create impact in the environments and the communities there. So find a way to align and get into that institution, rather than spending 100,000 5 times. And there are some people who assume that you can build numbers of institutions of certificates to equate to the real one. That's not the case. So we validate that, and that is the minimum requirement to be interviewed. Reason for that is that the experts in that field that are going to evaluate you, we don't want to waste time. If you're going to interview for an accounting job or an engineering job, a legal job, and the person actually doesn't have those credentials, you're wasting the time that would have been spent on someone else who actually has it. So we make sure that it's a pass or fail. So once you get into the interviews, the panels assess your depth of knowledge and validate what you stated in your job description, in your CVs and resumes. The individuals who best align to the profile. Remember, we talked about the need. So there's alignment we're looking for. The ones who best align are the ones who are shortlisted for the final. And the final here is where we now include the client who comes and engages with the individuals. And it's the client's choice, because you're going to work in the environment. Simple things like, we have too many women, we need some men. We have too many men, we need some women. We have people of this age bracket, we need some continuity, we need some younger guys, those kind of things. But of course, also checking that you meet the need. You will be able to meet and satisfy the reason why they're filling this position. Let's always remember that any job that is put out there is put there because it has to meet a particular pain point. And if we don't understand that pain point, then we don't understand the job.
I like what I'm hearing. And I like the quality control process. I like that. Talk to me about any automation systems that you may have, because so far it sounded a manual process.
Yeah. Automation is the CVs coming in, because we get so many CVs. So they come in and we like to summarize them, give a template that they have to use, so that using AI tools we can easily summarize the content, and using that summary we can then also sieve and rank in terms of the exact areas that we need. The other area of automation is if there's an assessment that's given, okay, the assessment is online, so that people can do it from anywhere they are. We don't need them to come, all right? But it's time bound, time restricted, so that you do it within a particular time. The other aspect is communication with the candidates. They can actually monitor at which stage.
Progress.
Yes, progress, yeah. So we are also looking at helping our candidates who, after placement, can upgrade, continuously update their resumes online, so that at the next point of assessing what resources do we have in our database, they're updated already. Yeah.
If you have, for example, 5 people who went for an interview and they selected one, but these 5, the 4 who are left were solid candidates, right? Do you have like a roster of pre-approved people that you maintain?
Yes.
To speed up the process for the next customer?
That's correct. We do.
How does that work?
What happens is we keep in touch with those people. They know anyhow that they were not selected. Sometimes the client may indicate why, but other times, But it's our responsibility to keep these people in our focus. And part of the processes we go through is to ask them, when the next opportunity presents itself, whether they are still interested and there's this opportunity, would they want to go for it? And then we again check. Sometimes it's been frustrating because an individual continuously tries and is not getting it.
True.
But we always encourage them to keep trying. I just want to share something that is all our responsibility. We talk about lack of jobs. The jobs are not going to be created by government. The jobs are going to be created by the private sector. So the more we support private sector, the more we are supporting our own environment. Government's role is to support private sector to create the jobs. That's the major role. Government itself, a job cannot be created. It's people who are giving services, producing products that create the jobs, because for that to happen, people are needed. Government gives public services, but the private sector is to support government to set up those outfits, to offer services that people pay for, to manufacture products that people buy. So the more that happens, the more the opportunities of jobs. So we always need to know. And that's why I emphasize that we should not expect that government is going to do that for us. We have to support government to do that, because it is it's a catalyst. Government is a catalyst. But the jobs are created by the private sector, and so the needs that the skill set have to match are needs of the private sector. And as we grow our businesses, let's allow for novices to come in and learn. We do not need to start paying them salaries but allow for volunteers. Because those volunteers, as they keep learning, they become the skills that you'll need for the future.
True.
Yes.
Internships.
Yes.
When you look at, you mentioned private sector, you talked about government. If you look at the breakdown, the composition, private sector versus government, what do you see in terms of maybe percentage-wise, the jobs coming in from government and those coming in from private sector?
You see, as the economy grows, the economy's growth is dependent on the private sector growth. So where there are more jobs coming up, it's always private sector. Because the government sets up structures to support
the private.
So the private has to grow for then the government to come in.
So basically it will always be bigger than the inflow from the government.
Yes, absolutely. Always. It's, yeah, it's a support structure. Government is a support structure for the private sector. Yes.
When the person has been placed at the organization, do you have like a monitoring mechanism where you discuss with the organization, how is our person doing? And also discuss with the person that you placed there, how is the organization doing? So that you get feedback on how you can improve the sourcing, how you can improve the placement, how you can improve on the verification of the company itself to see that it is working well.
We used to do that very ardently earlier on until the numbers became quite big across the region. Remember, we operate in 5 countries. So right now we're introducing, that's where the automation also is coming in, so that we can get direct, continuous engagement with our candidates and with the clients. Right now, for all the recruitment projects that we have, we always follow up 3 to 6 months. The trainees that go through our training arm, we also follow up with them, actually continuously, because we're keen to track on the skill set development. This is very much occupational and vocational. So there's the assumption that we don't have those skills in the country. So we want to build a repository that tracks the growth of these skill sets. Yes. So yes, we track these guys, but we want to do it even more deliberately.
Yes.
More scientifically.
Yes. If I was a business, I'm sorry for cutting short. If I was a business owner and I have gotten someone from your service, I would really be impressed. I would see professionalism and I would love to engage with you even more when you call me 6 months out to see is the guy working well. And if there is also an option of switching out the guy in case he's not working well, I would really, really love that. And I don't know if many people do that, actually. I have not heard of it a lot, but it is something that I think can be automated in like a feedback form, a feedback loop or something like that. You contact them, your team contacts them, and, you know, they give you this feedback. And they can tell you also what they have noticed since the start up till now that can help in improving this. I like that. You talked about the quality assurance process and how you do the needs determination. Very good. I want to go back to the business trying to get this service. Are they going to go and search for Q sourcing, see your phone number and call you? How does that process actually work at the initial stage?
So for the candidates...
no, not the candidates, the company. Which ones? Yes.
The queries. No, we have on our website, on our social pages, we have an address. I don't get involved in that. My role as a CEO of the group and the C-suite members are quality control, ensuring that the financial reporting is to the standard, ensuring that the customer service and customer experience is to the standard, ensuring that the whole IT process is to the standard, the HR, etc. So there are team members who access those emails. And once we get the email, it's received by the leads team. The leads team reaches out to the client the potential client, whichever country, and asks for their need. Remember, we talked about the need, profiles the need, and then gives confirmation that yes, we're going to come back to you with a proposal. Then we have what we call a growth team. That's the sales team. We call them growth because there's new clients and then there's existing growth in existing clients. Growth in existing clients is out of customer experience, because when the customer enjoys the experience, they'll give you more business. Growth is new clients. So the leads team determines whether it's growth in an existing client or a repeat business or a new client, and sends that particular assignment to the fitting member of staff. In all the countries we operate, we've got full outfits. So these teams are very, very competent to respond. So it is my responsibility to continuously train, see that these people are trained through our C-suite. So our role as the C-suite is continuously monitor that the standards are being met, standards of the brand. Number two, wherever there are improvement areas, we look at that and introduce the improvements. And number three, continuously train the team, capacity building of the team. You'll be shocked to know that the average age of our team is 28. And I probably am double it. Yes.
Wow.
Yes. Very, very astute young human beings.
Sharp.
Amazing. Very sharp. Yeah. I am humbled by their abilities, really. Yeah. I'm not sure we were that adept at that age.
At that age.
Yeah.
I know I wasn't, for sure. I know I wasn't.
They're quite good. I mean, I like there's a lot of stereotyping for the young generation, but these guys are putting in their all.
Yes.
And I think we need to appreciate them a bit more.
I think you just did. You just appreciated them.
Yeah.
Tell me, for your repeat customers, the clients, and here we're talking about the clients, we haven't even gotten to the job seeker side yet. But for the repeat clients that you have seen over time, do you have like service level agreements covering a period of time? It is two-phase question, period of time. And if so, do you have a service where you go in periodically to the company and do like a quality assessment of their HR to see potential gaps and potential suggestions for them, for their consideration as part of the service that you provide these long-standing customers?
We attempted that before. Probably we did not have the emotional intelligence to realize the insinuations of that exercise, and not many of our clients, let me say our client staff, understood the objective, because you're basically looking for gaps that you can support. But you're also calling out the people on the other side for the gaps. So for clients that are always looking to improve, those ones always appreciated that. For those that middle management is kind of trying to protect the inefficiencies, that becomes very difficult.
Sure.
But we appreciate that. I mean, it's only the clients that need it. Remember, ours is once there's a pain that's required, I mean, that the client has shared with us, then it's our obligation to come in. We tried the preventive approach, like you've presented it, but only those who are in continuous improvement mode would appreciate it. Those that are not, we hang in there for them until they get there, and then we are ready to support them. But yes, to your question, it's something that we'd love to do, because look, Herbert, we want to be a part of a story of a client, of building a great brand on the continent, in East Africa. And that's why, as I said, when I was introducing myself, with a couple of friends of mine, my ambition is to support entrepreneurs, because I believe those businesses are the impact they will have on the economies. Yeah.
Okay. And the one on the SLA?
Yes. Yes, for the short and long term, we have SLAs that are assignment specific and then SLAs that are period specific, where you indicate that whenever you have a need, you can always come in. Yeah.
And you go the front of the line.
Yes.
To get the service.
Yes.
Okay. When employers come to you and they're looking for people, what have you realized are the key priorities that they have?
So I would say three things. A lot of them, and those mainly for the public institutions, it's governments, NGOs, and donor-funded programs. They like to look at credentials, the CV. The private sector guys, not so much. They want to see where you have worked and what you did, where you did it from. Of course, the degrees or diplomas or certificates are an entry point, but they often can adjust if you compensate with
work experience.
Especially relevant work experience. For the government bodies and NGOs, and when I say government bodies, I'm not talking about the government of Uganda or government of Kenya or Tanzania. I'm talking about governments, institutions that involve government.
Yes.
So that's number one, the difference between the two. The second thing that they look out for is evidence. Evidence. So you'll have the foundations presented, but evidence of it is very critical. And this applies to both.
The actual examples.
Examples.
Yes.
So do not give general. If I'm asking you for accounting work, don't tell me you managed 3,000 people versus 300 people. No. Don't tell me how many years of experience. Specify what you did.
Let me set up straight. So, if an accountant is looking for a position,
Yes.
what you're saying, it is better for him to say, I managed a budget of 2 billion shillings.
Yes.
As opposed to 5 years in this position.
Absolutely. Absolutely. The period of time will be stated in the summary, but what you did during that period of time. Because during that period of time, yes, you managed a budget of 5 million shillings or 5 billion shillings. You managed it and you always within or carried forward savings while achieving the objectives. That's very important. That's very important. I was able to monitor real time on a week-on-week basis. That's important, right? Because that's what I want. That's my pain point. If I want an accountant for the purposes of, I was able to produce the financial statements, the principal financial statements, the TB,
the P&L,
the P&L, balance sheet on a monthly basis, right? And within 5 days past the previous month. That's important. If someone presents that and did it for 5 years versus someone else who presents, I have 10 years experience, I think we know who is going.
Yes.
So that's very important.
Yes.
Specify.
Articulate.
Things that you know are critical for the role. And the role, the JDs for the role, as I say, the pain points have been described. So speak to them. Speak to them. Don't tell me about your nice life. That's very good. But for now, speak to the experience. The third bit of it is how you like to be rewarded. That's a unique one. You can indicate that you take a retainer. It depends also on the role. Take a retainer and work on commission and, would want to know the bonus. Why that is now becoming important is because the market changes, the environment changes continuously. The employers also want to know that you want to take a bit of the pain of the risk that they're going through. And once you present yourself that way, it strikes a note with a potential employer. Yes.
Is some skin in the game?
Absolutely.
Does the CV length matter?
No, content matters.
Content.
They are very, very high performers over many years at summarizing two pages.
True.
And they indicate once you need more information, I will give it to you. If you give 10 pages and as I'm reading, there is little content, that's not a good indicator.
True.
Yeah.
And you won't get to the 10th page.
You will never reach the 10th page. Because remember how many applications you're getting.
Yes.
And if we're using an automated system, it will shrink everything you say into what is relevant. Yes. So just focus on the things that are relevant. And people should not be shy to say the few things they've done. Because if you're stating 3 things, those 3 things may be actually 3 out of 5 that I need. Compared to someone else who's stating 10 and has only 2. Yeah.
Or even you could be trainable for the 2, which you didn't mention. And okay, I see what you're saying. When companies come to you, what mistakes do they make in the process that can help them have a better candidate or enjoy the process better?
One mistake that I've seen is some of them do not allow us to share our experience. Because we are dealing with your competition. We're dealing with your potential competition. We're dealing with your former competition, all out there in the market. You're asking for a need. Ask us to contribute to the conversation.
True.
If you come and insist on a particular approach, we will follow, but we'll always say, just confirm. And why we've had situations where we've tried to give feedback and the person says, no, just do what I told you. So that's number one mistake, and which is painful because we feel like we're not giving as much value as would have loved to give. The second aspect is where the pain is for production department and you leave it with HR to define the need. I mean, Herbert has a problem because he doesn't speak Spanish. I speak Spanish. They ask me to present Herbert's problem. I will present Herbert's problem from what I see.
True.
But is it actually what the problem is?
True.
Find a translator for Herbert. Yes.
And let him speak.
Let him speak, because that is he's the one who has the need. And he's the one to whom this individual is being recruited is going to report. And he's the one who will have the pain, continuous pain or reduced pain, or no pain after the placement.
The service.
So that's the second point that we see. And when we give feedback on the need to speak to the actual user, and the client tends to resist, some of those conversations will end because we know it's going to be difficult. There will be continuous back and forth because the communication channel is blocked and it's not smooth. So
it's not efficient.
No, it's not efficient, and it's not going to yield the results that the client wants. The third part that we see as a problem center is it's okay to give us your budget, but sometimes it's also okay. Remember, we talked about some people prefer to have, yes, retainer, commission, and even bonus. So the commission and bonus will be over and above. Just share with us your need, and you can indicate to us the budget, the bracket, as an indicator of what my budget is. However, because it's growth, we're always in the growth mode. Allow for conversations with some of these candidates that may be out of budget, but indicate your budget and your intention to grow if they also bring what it takes and what is needed to grow that budget provision. So that flexibility is something that is rare, but it's growing. It's good. Yeah.
Do they, I know you mentioned slightly about the budget. I have noticed that for many of the jobs, they don't actually put the salary that they will be paying. And the salary, to me, is a good sieve from applicants. You know, they can look at it and say, this one I'll do, or this one I cannot waste my time doing. Do you find that clients are resistant, customers are resistant to adding it, or they don't see the benefit, or what do you think?
Yes and no. Sometimes they don't see the use. Sometimes they put it there as a criteria. But either way, it's just an indicator, because that's the perceived value that they see from this role. If you come in with a different proposition and it syncs with them, then they can have the conversation. But as I said earlier, it's important to look at the needs of the role. And if it syncs with you, go for it. One aspect that I find job seekers do not appreciate very much is that they go for roles simply because of the money
that they have seen.
Yes. And the unfortunate thing is that money is not going to motivate you for so long. It's the actual work that's there that's most critical. Yes. And so when you focus on the money, you lose the most critical bit of it, which is why the role is being filled. And when you get there, you're frustrated, and the frustration will be both for you and as well as the employer. And so the relationship will not be so good. Yeah. So that's to your question. Do some employers want to present? They give their estimated range. Some don't. Some say, give us the best candidate. We like those because it allows us to now look for the best.
I guess, yes.
Those also who indicate the budget, it's also helpful. But it seems to be a smoke screen for candidates sometimes. Yeah.
When you look at your inflow of new companies looking for service, do you find that you have more repeat business? Is your marketing strong? Or how does that pan out?
Yeah, good question. We have a lot of repeat businesses, repeat clients, who come for additional roles. Those are helpful because we already know the culture, so we can speak to it with the potential candidates. We have a lot from our social media pages because of the stories told by placed candidates, not the clients, placed candidates. So we like those stories because they speak impact on individuals out there in the market. We have a lot of word of mouth, satisfied clients recommending us, and very little out of advertising. Of course, a lot of these go through bids as well. So we are called to bid, and that's pretty much. We don't do a lot of other media other than social media. We like to use our website, our social media pages, to tell the stories of what we do. Yeah.
Do you actively, the stories you talked about of the placed candidates,
yes,
do you actively put these stories out there, or are they organic from the applicants themselves?
Some are organic, some are actually posted by the applicants themselves.
Right, celebration.
Exactly. LinkedIn, on Facebook, Instagram, they talk about their experiences. So those are always the best. And those are the ones actually I look for as CEO.
Yes.
Because it shows me what my team is doing.
True.
Yes.
When you look at the recruitment industry in the regions where you serve, what or who would you say are your competitors, and how do you stand out from them?
So, well, we operate in Tanzania, Kenya, Uganda, Rwanda, and South Sudan.
Okay.
And we've got affiliate partners that operate in Senegal, Cote d'Ivoire, Congo Brazzaville, DRC, Mozambique, and we're looking at Namibia and Zambia. Those are areas of operation. How do we stand out in those markets? How we do our business across the board is that we are very specific on standards, and we hold ourselves to the highest standards. We believe as a brand we should not be compared to the lowest standard because it's what exists in that market. No. We want to compare ourselves to the highest standard on the continent as well as in the world. And that's why a couple of years ago, I signed up a relationship with a European-based company which has interest in western part of Africa. It's French-based, so we're complementary, Anglophone and Francophone. And together, that's our ambition, to be number one on the continent. I would say that we are in the top 5 on the continent. I would be very confident in responding that on the continent, if there's an assignment that involves multiple countries where we operate, we would certainly deliver one of the best services. On the independent country scenes, we are also in the top 5. In some, top 3. Clearly top 3. And 3 of the things that I say put us high up there is each entity has an obligation to maintain ISO standard, the QMS standard, Quality Management Services standard. For those entities like the training arm that also is involved in environmental matters, they also have that standard. They've got about 3 standards that they maintain. Now standards, these international standards state that you can do the same thing, the same way, all the time because of the processes, the people you use, and the monitoring mechanisms you have in place. So that is the number 1 thing that we hold ourselves to. Number 2 is the risk mapping. We're always risk mapping. Always risk mapping. And risk mapping is basically looking at what processes are in danger of being contradictory to our ambitions and how do we continuously improve them. We maintain very, very strict recognition of incidents, incidents of delayed performance, incidents of, say, injuries on site, all those kind of things. We record those because they help us to improve. And that's why we risk map. Process, people, cash, because cash flow is very important. All these operations need lots of cash, so we have to have a lot of funding partners, the banks and the like. But also sector-specific risk. Sectors that have great opportunities also come with great risk. So we always have to monitor that. So risk profiling is one thing that we do continuously. One of the things in that risk profiling is what we say cronyism and nepotism, where individuals are highly likely to place their
tribe mates or known associates.
People you associate with more. In the process of recruitment, say, the person moves through as a code, number, your candidate number. So the different phases, and the person who captures your details is not the one who is handling the process. And so that we have instituted, and it helped us greatly to reduce influence peddling.
So the process is compartmentalized.
Yes.
The one who receives is not processing, and is also blind to the operators and also the candidates themselves.
Yes.
I like that.
Yes. So the identity of the candidates is only at the end when you've been recommended now for the selected candidates, because we select a group of candidates. The third thing that stands out for us.
I'm sorry, I have to cut you short. Yes. When you are unblocking, or now showing the candidate, is the blackout up to the client? Because I would imagine that it comes up to the client, and the client also sees candidate number this, and then he says, bring me these candidate numbers, then the people appear that way.
That's correct. Okay. That's correct. So there are some clients who are involved in the process, so they can see behind the scenes, but for sure, they do not, that is never a determinant, that because Herbert is there, I know Herbert put in. No. If you say that is an incident.
Yes.
We capture
on your qualities.
Yes. The third thing is that aspect of innovation. We always want to see how better can we do. And we continuously engage with our clients, asking them, what more would you want to see? We make it open-ended, not necessarily that it's going to be done for free. There are things that we can do as part of our offering. Then there are things that we say, if we can do, you'll have to pay more. But if it adds value to you, we would like to engage in that space. Not all clients are responsive, but those, as I said before, that want value will engage. And that helps us to grow as well. And that I've found to be my area of intervention as well, because then I interact with the client. Clients that need services, business as usual, I don't usually engage with them much. But those that want more and more and more, we get involved. There are a lot of things that we've been doing with some clients that are great things. I like them because they involve using the skill set more of the people, upskilling the people more, getting more value for the client. It also translates into more business for us. So everyone is happy. I like those. Yeah.
Obviously.
Yes.
For the client who is concerned about the time it will take or the cost that this thing will, take, what do you have to say about this?
So we've been involved in this business for 19 years and counting. And over the years, we have profiled a lot of people. As we discussed earlier, there are some situations where we have 5 of the best candidates, and for one reason or another, the client, that particular client takes one of the 5, so 4 are left. These people build into a pool. So there are positions where the client needs filled, and the need speaks to some of these guys' credentials and some of these guys' abilities. So in some of those cases, we can give 48 hours just to validate with the client, with the candidates, whether they can send us any updated material that will be necessary. We can do it in 24, but we like 48, just to allow for time for the candidates in case they've traveled or they can't reach that material. So yes, we can give turnaround up to 24 hours. Some roles where we have to advertise in the papers, usually 2 weeks, give 2 weeks adverts notice. And then basically all that wraps up into a month. So roles could take anywhere between 24 hours to a month. There are some where even after advertising, you still don't get the credentials you want.
Yes.
So you now go into the wider loop. We've got links with similar outfits in Europe, in Asia, in Southern Africa, as I said, also in Western Africa with our partners. And so we'll escalate it to that point. So sometimes it could go up to 6 months if the role is that critical. But in that case, it's a role that involves replacing someone who's been there for a while. So the employer is already unwilling to wait. But that's very, very rare. Those are very, very much outliers of this whole process, yes. But typically 24 hours to 1 month. Yeah.
What about the range of costing?
The costing, so typically it's 1 month equivalent, 1 month equivalent gross pay, or what would say 8.5% of the annual gross. That's the minimum in some instances. It could grow up to 12% of the annual salary.
Depending on the features they want.
Yes, depending on the roles. But in some instances, you could be asking for roles that we already have, the CVs, and bigger numbers, so we give you a discount. Yeah, so there are discounts as well. So it's always negotiable. But we always want to come out showing the client that, they've gotten more than they paid for. It's rare for clients that do not appreciate value. We had discussed earlier about the red flags and where you find employers that have typically based recruitment on trust because of relations. You hire your family members not because of their competencies, but rather because you think you trust them, because you share the bloodline. There will always be conflict, because when we send these candidates in, if the employer's priority is on trust and relation, they will downplay the credentials of this person and the capacity of this person, and there will be frustration. Yes. So the cost aspects we can always negotiate, but not out of what we feel is the value we're giving.
If I'm an employer, how can I get more value from you? What are employers not asking or seeking for from you that you can give?
Some employers do not appreciate the process we follow. Now, if I may back up a little, we've tended to see that clients that appreciate our service, the recruitment service, right? Because we have so many other services. Actually, our revenue generators, recruitment is one of the list. But it's also one of the most important. Three things that we've seen in the profile of our clients that have made, that are A-list clients. Either the user or contracting department has individuals who understand our business. They've been exposed to the standards we want to keep. Or two, the brand, the client brand appreciates those standards, and so they will appreciate what we are presenting. And three, they aspire to get there, right? Either the individuals, the contact people aspire to get there, or the brand aspires to get there. Where we struggle is where individuals feel you can open your gate and the next guy walks by. If he accepts the contract, then you're sorted. Those we struggle with because they do not appreciate the process. It's a contracting process. It's a procurement process. Just like you're looking for a service provider, you're procuring a product, you're procuring machinery. That's the process as well. This time you're procuring an asset. The asset is a human being, the skill set. Not just a human being, but human resource. Your question also speaks to those who would typically be clients that we wish could grow into the A-list bracket. These, they tend to be very pushy. They do not seem to listen to the process, but we appreciate, yes, the pain point is now, right? When you go to a doctor and you have a problem, you want it sorted immediately. But if you have to go to the lab for tests and wait for the tests and results, I think you have to, because otherwise the doctor will, prescribe something absolutely off. And that's the same thing with us. If you come and we ask you, okay, you share the following, that is important. If you say, no, just give me this person, that's a very unusual situation for us, and would encourage that we avoid it, because we're working on probabilities that are not in the client's control and not in our control. Whereas if we did what we could from our experience, that would minimize the chances of failure. We really appreciate that kind of patience, and not to say that we want to wait for 6 months. No. We like to engage with the client. And so those kind of clients, we always talk to them. And the team often escalates those kind of clients for the senior managers to relate to speak with them. But not to say that we do not engage with them. We feel that the conversation with them should still be had, because some of these guys are probably in so much pain, right? So it's even blocked their ability to be patient. So interacting with them and giving them more confidence is quite helpful. And something that we're able to do, but not many clients ask for it. We did it for a couple of clients, but it tended to end in a conflict of interest. And this is to do with a needs assessment. We are able to do a needs assessment for the client. But now we are costing it because we've had experience where we do the needs assessment, and because we're interacting with the users who probably have their gaps have come out from the needs assessment, they kill the whole process at that point. We've had situations where the needs assessment has shown there's cronyism and nepotism and a lot of that kind of thing in the process, and it's an area to fix, but the person receiving the report is the number one culprit.
Of course.
We've had situations where the systems are bloated and we're coming to clean out, and the beneficiaries of that bloating are receiving the report.
Of course.
All those situations are situations that will be beneficial for the client. However, the client not seeing that those are possibilities, and when I say the client here, I'm talking about the head
Yes.
of the client team, not just our contact person.
Yes.
If they could ask us to do a bit more prior to engaging, we would be happy to do so. Because I feel that a lot of times where we have done it, it's been very, very helpful. Very, very helpful. The value is impeccable for both of us. And but it's something that we're working on. And again, as I said before, those clients that are looking for continuous improvement, lots of value, they tend to appreciate that. Yeah.
So by this line of reasoning, it says that there are those clients whom after you engage with 1-2 times, you see this is not going anywhere and you have to terminate.
Yes.
How do you have that conversation?
Those are difficult conversations. Normally, we cite clauses in our SLAs, our service level agreements, where we indicate that of course, it's important also not to indicate that there are some, contract breaches that have been cited. But rather, we do not indicate interest to continue. It's usually at a cycle of the contract. So a lot of people complain about the length of contract, right? When we go to banks are like, but why do you have short contracts? They don't realize that these contracts also enable us to evaluate our relationship.
True.
And say, no, how about I'm not going to be continuing at the end of this contract.
Yes.
Amicable, shake hands, move on.
Yes.
If, however, you get a situation in a 5-year contract and you're in year 2, that is a situation. That is a big problem, because there's got to be very, very substantial reason for you to terminate, even if it is 3 months. There's people who assume that everyone has a right to exit. It's not as simple as that. Some situations may be that there is some EQ that we have seen that has diminished because Herbert has left, John has come in, and we were discussing progressive change with Herbert. John has come in and he wants to learn from the beginning. Herbert has left with a lot of that institutional memory. We cannot have a conversation with John. It's not our space. That becomes very complicated. And yet we've already started to commit, right, to those changes. And so we say, okay, at the end of this contract, we shall not renew. But you're in year 2 or 5. That becomes complicated. So those conversations are mainly at the end of, at the next cycle of renewal. That's when we
I like that. I think that is also notorious in the UN. You must have picked it from there. Yes. They have very short contracts, 2 weeks or so. Yeah. And people have worked for 10 years in the organization, but they have to keep renewing. Yes. And it keeps you on your toes. Yes. It keeps you sharp all the time. Yes, yes. Because if you fail, there's no signature. And
it maintains the alignment. Because when we misalign, there should be room for, okay, I think we're misaligning. We're sliding out of line. So shake hands. But if you start to misalign on a 10-year contract, you're in year 2, difficult.
True.
Difficult, yeah.
I wanted to go back to the question of clients coming in with a particular mindset or thinking they need this person as opposed to something else. Do you have an example that you can cite? Or
we have situations where some clients assume we are administrators. We're actually not professional service providers. They feel we announce on radio, bring people in, ask for their credentials, and do not evaluate them, and just give them the people as they are. As professionals, it's our role to ask you. Remember, the issue is they start with what is your need, and allow us to analyze that and share with you our input. That's the relationship that we feel should be had with a client. Not getting instructions. Clients where we get instructions are often clients where the value add is very small. There is a lot of situations where there is mix-up of need and role. Case in point is accountant and finance manager. The finance manager is not an accountant. An accountant is to build your set of accounts and present them in those 3 critical principal documents, right? TB, P&L, and your balance sheet. Accounting for your money. A finance manager looks ahead, right? A lot of them, the foundation is analysis, financial analysis, investment analysis. So, where you want your books of accounts to be in order and to have your statements presented accurately, timely, etc., do you really need a finance manager? You know? So, clients that have come to show the pain point so we can discuss what the need is and the credentials that would fit and the role also that we would plug in, that ends with a successful fit, successful placement. For where you come and insist this is what I want, we'll give it to you, but there will be so much back and forth, wastage of time for you as the client and for us as well. Because we want to give you, remember we talked about 24 hours to 30 days. And the longer it lasts, the more frustration for our teams, both our teams. So I like to use that adage of, it's important to know what you don't know. And not assume all the time when you walk into a situation that you already know. Maybe start with, I don't know, until you realize you actually know. And that's an approach I use, and for the company. Continuous improvement means you don't know everything. You always look for what you don't know. So yes, we've had situations where there's a mindset issue, and we tend to shake hands before it gets messy.
When before you hand over the client for interview, the candidates for interview, talk to me about the background check process that you go through to vet them.
Of course, the interview process, as you said earlier, it includes the validation of your skill set through assessments, right? Those interviews, checking your paperwork to confirm that the papers are legit, and also, of course, verifying the documents you're sharing with us. That's before presenting you to the client. Once the client selects you, we now do background check on you as an individual. Some of those will include credit reference checks, because for roles where you're going to be handling money, a lot of transactions, your financial behavior is important.
Of course.
Yeah. And we ask you to confirm that it's okay to check you out, and then we go in and check you out. We've had situations where people are so indebted, and that always affects their ability to make the right decisions at work. So we call it out, yeah.
Any other areas other than the
political matters? If you are very political, you will tend to be biased in your approach to situations. It doesn't matter whether you're pro or against government. It doesn't matter, so long as you're political. If it's a business, the business is a business. It's not political, so we're not hiring you for your political affiliations. That's a critical area. It's also important to check your mental state. Now, not necessarily they are mentally ill or not, but how have your behaviors been over time? Are you a person that is triggered by certain stress factors, and yet this role
is stressful,
right? How do you handle different environments? That's very important, because if you don't check that out, the person will have all the credentials, all the experience, has accepted the role, but they are simply not in the state of mind to work. Simply, yeah. And it's frustrating for all parties. We who have placed you, the client who's going to employ you, and you yourself. So we look out for those,
Talk about your staff that you have. I know the regional coverage. Active staff, maybe casuals, these volunteers, interns. What numbers are we looking at?
We employ in the whole group up to 6,500 people. Our head office staff is 110 across the region. We notice that our staff also tend to get stressed because they're dealing with people who are also stressed sometimes, right? In the environment they operate. So not only do we continuously train them, have team building and all these things, we have now introduced a counseling services for every staff member.
Available,
free of charge. whether you're doing fine, stressed, or about to run crazy, they're available. It's mandatory for everyone to go and just have counsel, like speak to someone. What's going great, what's not going well, and what is really stressing you. We all have that need, and so the company felt it's a critical service that we have to give to our staff.
True.
The staff do a lot of work. The younger generation, as opposed to us, do not have a lot of community outside the social media. Many years ago, we had villages where people would crisscross between compounds and there would not be questions asked. Simply walk into a compound and catch
even eat from the food, yes.
Someone is playing football, you just go and join in and play away. When there's lunch, you go and sit with the family, no questions asked, you're from the neighborhood, it's okay. That's not possible anymore. You have to be invited, you don't know your neighbor. We knew our neighbors. As far away as like 3 roads away. The whole village you knew, but now you stay in a place, you're all in a gated community, you don't know each other. So those things helped us to grow our emotional intelligence. The current generation is spending a lot of time on gadgets, and that time that we used to use to interact with others is being used to interact with others on phone. And these others are not necessarily in our nearby community. These are out there in very different communities. So we feel that because we have a young generation of staff, we have to give them that opportunity for counsel. Well, even us, the old ones need it. So
of course,
it helps both.
Of course.
Yeah.
For the job seekers, what are some of the most common myths that you hear, and what is the truth behind this?
3 things. One, a lot of assumptions that you need to know someone to be a candidate or to be placed into a role, versus you need to have the credentials and satisfy the assessment process to meet the need of the particular role. The second thing is that you have to have a long CV and many years of experience for you to be the preferred candidate. No, you need to show that you have done things that are needed in that particular role and have expertise in that, because that's all people need. If you've done it in a shorter time and have experience, fair enough. The third thing is that we always go for the cheapest. No, we don't. We always go for the one who's going to create value, because the one who's going to create value will compensate for their expense anyhow. So those are things that it's unfortunate. A lot of people get stuck in that. And because of that, they miss opportunities.
There is also one that I tend to hear where people say that the jobs which are advertised are already taken. This is for sure. What do you think?
People need to realize that advertising is a cost. So if the jobs are already taken, why incur that cost? We are always very cautious of money. So if we have advertised, it means that we want to build our pool of potential candidates. And please respond. Besides, it doesn't cost you anything other than time to respond. And if that was the case, you did your bit. I would always encourage people to do their part and not to assume that someone else needs to do something before they do their part. Just do your part. Yeah. So it's not correct. We don't, at least I wouldn't sign off that. Absolute waste of money and time.
True.
Yeah.
There is also one where they say that if the job says like you mentioned, turnaround down can be 48 hours to 1 month, right?
Yes.
And they say the deadline is 1 month.
Yes.
So there is a school of thought that says, as soon as you see the job posted, apply that same day. And you could be called for an interview that same day, even if the deadline is 1 month. And then others say that is not beneficial. The process will wait up to the end of the month before you're called in. What's the truth?
Good question. The reason why we give time is to allow those who are not able to deliver on day 1, 2, 3, or 4. Otherwise, we would say we are advertising today and we expect to receive the CVs day 20. No. If we start, the process starts immediately. And people need to realize that there are so many applications. That's why we give it time. It allows the team in-house to start to process CVs. And the question I would ask back to such people, how about is, would it give you more chances to be in the front row or in the back?
The early bird or the late comer?
Exactly. It's simple. As I've said, put yourself in a position of advantage, not disadvantage. That's the principle. So that you don't blame the process, but yourself. Yes. You have all that you need. There is nothing you're going to do between now and 20 days. 30 days. Why? What happens if on day 29 you're running around looking for where to send the submission? Or between now and then something happens, you have a family event and you have to go off and then you have to come back earlier to do it. Get it done. Yes.
So what I'm hearing, there is an advantage to the early submission, despite the fact that it is saying 30 days out.
What we look for is those with the need, those who satisfy the need, right? If we find you earlier, you are part of the first people we look at, and you're there, and we add you. So even when we're updating the client, because we always monitor how many applications have come in, how many have been shortlisted, and we're updating the client. You don't want to be in a situation where the client says, I think we have enough CVs.
And they could say that at the beginning of this process.
Yes. They have all the right to do so.
Do they wait? Do the clients wait for the 30 days to expire, or do they tell you, Patrick, give me what you have so far, let me see? Because they're excited, they want the thing to...
Just like life, you give yourself time. But if you achieve what you want earlier, the rest is giving you an allowance in case it doesn't work. But the interviews will start. Let's scenario set. We're giving up to 30 days. Day 10, we have a couple of CVs that are quite good. So we schedule interviews because we do not want to have too much backlog. We schedule interviews. And out of those interviews, we have 3 strong candidates, right? So these people have just set the mark. Whoever else has got to beat that mark. That's how it is. So you apply later, anything missed out, you have a mark to beat. Yes. So if you're in that first group, then maybe they will consider, yeah, he or she is part of the top. So let's look at them. Let's put it this way. If you were part of those in the first 10 days, and you increase from 3 to 5, right? So you have 5 people. If you're not in there, then they have 3 people. And you come in later, will they add you?
Probably not.
Yes, because now you have to be better than the 3. Not same, better. Yes. That's the situation. And again, I'll say, seize the opportunity with both hands. Yeah. Let's not have situations where an opportunity passes us by because we feel we still have time. Yeah.
There is a friend of mine. She had a role that she wanted, and the deadline was a month to go. And I asked her, "Did you apply?" No, they just advertised. I have 30 days. I said, "Okay, so have you applied?" No, I still have 30 days. I said, "This is the wrong approach." I tried to explain exactly what you're saying, and she gave me serious pushback about this, saying the 30 days is okay, and they will wait and look at everything like a bidding process or something. I said, "This is not."
It's not statutory. It's not statutory. It is only an allowance.
To build efficiency. Yes. Okay. How about the myth relating to the number of applicants who have already... So if a job is posted and say apply, for example, if you go to LinkedIn, for example, and say apply, you will see that there are 200 applicants, 300 applicants. Should the person even bother applying for that one, or
yes.
How does it work?
Always go. No, always go for it, because if how we do our system is whoever applies, irrespective of the number, we're looking for particular aspects of the credentials that we'll need before people are called. And we look at every single CV, because it's not just manually looked at, it's our system that shares the report. So go in there, present your application in a manner that speaks to the job. And once you have those credentials and the system has captured them, then you will be summarized. You will be part of that summary that will be called. So please go ahead. Even though it's 10,000 people, it will still pick it out.
Don't be discouraged.
No, don't be discouraged, because we have to account also to the client that we're able to bring them the best. Out of the 10,000, what did you do that helped to extract the best from these 10,000? Yes, it's our obligation. Yeah,
I think that is good. It also speaks to your quality control and the operation internally to sieve out these people.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah.
At the time when you have collated all these CVs and gotten the cream from this process, and you're now looking at them physically, the actual applications or the summaries, are there some red flags that you might look at and from your experience to know that this will not work and immediately throw it out?
Again, three things I'll share. If I look at two CVs, let's for a moment assume they all have worked over a 5-year period. CV A has someone working through 5 jobs. Through those jobs, they have done different things. And the different things are reflected in the achievements they have reported. Remember we talked of what did you do in the job where you were.
Yes.
CV B has been in 2 roles, but has done the same thing. Right? There are 2 things that we're dealing with here. A red flag of being a job hopper that is addressed by having done different things. So you're now a preferred candidate rather than a red flag. Right? This one who would have loved to see achievements, you've done the same thing literally for 5 years.
Yes.
So there's no value change.
Yes.
So do you see?
Yes.
Big dangers. So how we present our CVs, we should know that if you have been hopping from job to job, you've got to show what was the difference.
Right.
Absolutely. If there was no difference, then you are a job risk. If you show you've worked in a role for long periods of time, then also show what you did in that role. Not just show that you were reporting on time, on duty, and to work on duty on time. So that's number one about the frequency of of time spent in roles. The second thing is telling lies
on the CV.
On the CV. And telling lies on the CV, in your summary, you say how you have, I don't know, all kinds of nice stories, you solutions oriented, but you're solutions oriented, you have not showed examples of where you solved problems in your roles. Please don't do. Because when you do that, we look out for that and we say, this one is just flamboyant, just likes to talk nice things, but zero action. And that red flags. And remember, you are now competing with the top brass because the CVs we look at are those that have been selected from the system. So if we pick out something like that, it's a pass or fail. This question mark on the side. The third thing is where your referees, none of them is from where you have worked before. Family, friends, your father, your mother, or sister, brother, cousin, whatever. That's a red flag.
What if, okay, good question, good point. What if, so we work together, same organization,
Yes.
I'm looking for a different place, so I'm no longer here, but you've also moved on somewhere else.
Yes.
So that reference would be okay, because you can speak to the period that I'm talking about.
Correct.
Okay.
I can speak to the period, but also, even if I moved on, if they check with the company, there are two people who are making reference to you having been there.
Yes.
Rather than just one person.
Yes.
So it's important to speak because to validate what appears on your CV, there needs to be some backup. So if you give me a referee that has nothing to say about where you worked, yes, if I was your father and I'm involved in your life, I can speak about what you told me outside, what has come back to me. But those who worked with you in the workplace will give a primary experience with you. Yes, that's important.
There is online a common saying. I don't know if it is a saying, but I hope we find out. But there is something online that talks about that when a recruiter has received, so you have at any one time in your pipeline, I'm assuming maybe you have 50 jobs that you're trying to get people for, right? And for each job you've received maybe, 400 CVs, right? So you're in thousands of CVs and the clock is ticking every time, right? Hence the huge stuff that you talked about. Now, there is a common saying or understanding online that the time it takes for a recruiter to look at a CV is only 6 seconds. You mentioned something about pass or fail. You look at the thing, yes, no, put on the side, move on with the rest, right? Is this time correct? Is it really that short?
The 6 seconds? The 6 seconds it's based on a couple of things. One, how you presented yourself. The amount of time, how you presented your CV, I can see that I can find the information in the structure you presented that I require, your suitability. If you present in such a way that it's literally like one big paragraph, 6 seconds.
Will apply.
Yes.
I'm sorry for laughing, but I see what you're saying.
Yes, right? 6 seconds will apply. If, however, I see from the chronology and the framework and template and the structure of your CV, say I can see the different detail in your CV, I'll put it aside for further review.
Stage 2.
Yes. Further review, there and then, or I could actually apply more time. Because it's data mining. We're doing data mining.
True.
Here. If it's not well structured, you are complicating the whole presentation. Yes, the computer could have extracted that information, but me who is reading through it, I already see that you don't know how to present yourself. Right? Compared to the other. Remember here, it's now a game of comparisons.
True.
Who is presenting better than the other? Already. If this is the best way you can present yourself, and I'm sorry.
At such a critical time.
Exactly. Yes.
And we expect the best foot forward for this particular.
You're pitching. And this is how you do it. One big paragraph. someone writes like it's an essay. Like, no, it's going to be difficult.
I saw somewhere in your profile, I think you mentioned or said that people can now make good CVs. We are going beyond good CVs and using. Can you talk about that? So,
if you went to ChatGPT, you could ask it to do your profile resume, or to write an application letter for a particular role that is requested for ABC. How would catch out this person is the examples you give wherever you are making reference to the things you've asked for, right? And it's always a differentiator, because if you're talking about your experience in a particular skill set, it's not going to be in the same paragraph as the next. So that's in presentation. If it's in one long paragraph, clearly you don't realize that there are two different skill sets. Yes. So using ChatGPT to present, it will present very nicely, but we'll see that there is no human aspect to it. So you've definitely done it,
6 seconds.
Tools. Yes, there are tools that can look out for whether you used AI ChatGPT. Also, how you've presented it, either bullet points or narrative. It depends also on the field. Were you specific? Did you have quantified statements? Was it quantitative or just qualitative? If it's a field that expects quantitative statements and you're only doing qualitative, it's difficult to assess you further. Especially, as I said, in comparison. If someone else is doing that, you're not going to fall in there. It's already the person who is competing with his head and shoulders above you. Because of how they have presented themselves.
You mentioned, this is on a presentation of the CV, you mentioned no ChatGPT as much as possible.
Yes.
Number 2, you talked about the job hopping.
Yes.
At least specify why you made the moves, etc. Do not lie on the resume, right? Length is not an issue, really. As long as you have the content, it's okay. To the extent that you have the content, it's okay. Is there anything else that you could advise for job seekers to know, maybe that you do not see that would really help you in that selection process that they can use?
Be specific. Be specific. Do not write endlessly because you feel you have to write and have a long CV. Just be specific. Earlier I talked about a 2-page CV and a 10-page. The 2-page CV might have a lot more content than the whole 10 pages, but bullet points. And why it's so bullet pointed and states at the end, for further information, please reach out. If you want detail, the person will explain. Yes.
Call him.
Yes, absolutely. And you've already gotten into the door. Remember, we have to know what the objective is. Yes, being called to the table. Yes, not having the best narrative. No. Being called to the table.
There is I don't know if it is an understanding or whatever, but it talks about the time of application during the day. The time that the applicant should place their, submit their application during the day. And the logic is that if you apply on Sunday in the wee hours, midnight or Monday morning, 1 a.m., around that time, your application is going to be at the top of the pile. So when your 6,500 strong team comes in the morning, they are going to be picking from the cream, the people who have landed at the beginning. Now, I realize that you have the database with the system that will do the sieving, so this might not work. But for those companies where they attach emails and, say apply without this system here, is that something that you find might have value?
No, we avoid that because you're trying to time out and manipulate the system. we avoid that, and that's why we use that analysis, the analytical tools. And by the way, the 6,500 staff, just for correction, these are staff that are placed in client operations. The recruitment teams are pretty much the 100.
The 110.
Yeah.
Yes, okay.
In client sites, doing services there. So the myth of applying on a Sunday evening or midnight does not apply if you are an applicant applying through the system. If you send an email, then that is different because then in the morning the person will find you there, find your email. But if it's an application, application will only show on time of application. But otherwise, you add to your list.
For candidates who have managed to go through the sieves and in the interview process, what advice do you have for them to be able to get the offer? What should they do?
So there's two types of questions, even more. But for these two that I want to speak to, one is, tell us about yourself in this kind of environment. Give examples that show exactly that scenario where it's related to that. That shows that one, you are experienced in that field, but two, it gives how you've handled situations. And the question and answer will continue deeper into that. So you'll be able to answer and show. The second approach is, are you familiar with this particular problem statement? Explain from a technical perspective how you know about it, but also follow it up with how you've applied it. That closes the loop. Because not only are you just theoretical about it, you've actually applied it. And if possible, if you're given time, show where it's succeeded and show where it's failed. And what have you done about that? That definitely distinguishes you from the rest.
Let me see this just to make sure I understand this correctly. The question is, tell us about yourself. Usually this is the first one or second one, right?
Yes.
Tell us about yourself. And you're saying, don't bother with my name is so-and-so, telling us about your CV, a fresh noise. Rather, look at what the role is, what the need is, and then apply this specific example of what you did, how you did it, plus, minuses, and all related issues to it. The best way to approach that one.
Yes.
I like that actually.
Be specific. You tell us about yourself. You're responding to a call, and the reason why you feel you're the best candidate is because of A, B, C, and where you talk about how you've done things that relate to the need of the role. That's perfect.
That is one. Is there something that an applicant can say or do that will significantly make them stand out, or at least spark your ears and say, wait, hold on, let's review this guy one more time?
If you do research on the company that has called you, and you know some of the aspects they're challenged with, and you speak to them, how your role and your skill set will apply, and it syncs with the panel, they understand it perfectly, that's a big it's a big hit on the panel, because they will always refer to you.
And they always say you should investigate the company.
Absolutely.
If they are looking for you and you're really technical in your role, you know how the role is done.
Yes.
And they also say, even if you're not able to know the actual issue going on, you can come in with an assumption and say, I'm working under these assumptions, that this is something that might be going on in the company. If this were the case, truly, then this is what I would do. Yes. I would approach like this. This can work also.
Yes. But do not forget that there are people in the company. Do not come of I will. Together with. Yes.
As a team.
Yes. So that if there's one member on the panel who is part of that team, then they know you're going to come to help them to achieve better. Yeah.
You don't know it all.
No.
You're not the savior.
No. Important.
Have you seen anything related to age discrimination?
It's not so much age discrimination, it's a couple of things. One is if you are competing with a younger crop that has shown that they can do the job as much as you can, the only that you as the older person, you've done it for longer. But the person has done it for enough times for them to be classified as an expert in it as well. Your age is no longer an added factor. In fact, it becomes negative because if it's a long-term play, you who is older is going to be more expensive as it grows because you have additional needs like towards retirement. This person can be skilled and upskilled into new roles for the future of the company. So that's the first discriminator. It's pretty much a market discriminator. It's not deliberate employer to employer. Number two, if you are in a market like ours, where the larger part of the population is a younger population, and you will need to interact with the younger population, it's highly likely that if you have a competitor for the role, and that person is closer to that age group than yourself, the older person, you have to come with a lot more credentials that would override that particular advantage that the person has. So that becomes a problem. Last but not least is the nature of the role. If the nature of the role requires more travel, working in the field, away from families, you have a person who probably has no family yet, and this older person has a family, it might play out as a disadvantage for flexibility. Of course, there are those bits where it's more manual labor, more manually intensive on the body. The impact on the body is more. The profiles of the roles also can impact on whether age is a factor, or it's just a number. Yeah. So more roles where they are policy-based roles, it might be advantageous
to have the age.
Where it's actual execution, it might be disadvantageous, depending again.
I think that's a good way of looking at it, because with the age and years of experience, you're more stable and you can do the policy alignment strategy well.
And even experience.
Yes.
You've got lots of experience that you'd apply in terms of failed events, continuously successful events, longer period of success, longer period of success followed by failure, then success, So.
On the question of salaries, there's usually a concern where job seekers are scared of saying the salary they want for fear of losing, for fear of being out of the range, for all manner of fears, right? But they feel that, so for example, I'll use the example here in Uganda. The job, they don't know how much the job is. They want to ask for 3 million, but they say, let me ask for 2 to get my foot in, and hopefully I'll increase in future. And the client on the other side, or your recruiting team on the other side, is looking at this and say they have shorthanded themselves, they don't understand the scope of the role, and throw them out because of this 2 million. And yet the person was willing, but scared for this 3 million. What would you speak or tell these people to do going forward?
First of all, make reference to your last employment, but recognize that this is a different setting, and you're interested in hearing their offer. Yes, because, and make it very clear, because I had this income, and it's not like I didn't perform. But that is only when you're a high performer, where you can call the shots. I had this income. I'm interested in hearing what offer lies on the table. It's not fixed. I can listen, and if it speaks to my expectations, then I will consider it. If it doesn't, I will not. But I will let you know why. Yes.
If they push for a number,
give a range, because they will never give you a number. You will never have a number that's exactly the same as the other. So give a range. Say, if you're earning 3 million from your last job, say I would love an increment because of ABC, especially if you're going to be doing more roles, or the risk in this particular space is higher. The company is bigger, whatever. But also indicate that you're prepared to take a pay cut if there's more learning, if the possibility of commission, if there's a possibility of growth after 1 year, those kind of conversations.
Or depending on your personal circumstances also. If
yes, of course, you may be coming from abroad and your pay was in dollars, a lot higher. Now you're here, you can take a cut because of the environment. Yeah, but it needs to be clear why you're taking the cut. Yeah,
or otherwise it can be
exactly. It can be that not clear.
So, is there any other reason why a salary question might get a person out, other than being too expensive or too low?
If you're not clear on the reasons why you're willing to take a different salary from the previous one, yes, that can be, especially again, it's a game of comparisons, right?
Yes.
If the other party is clearer and you have the same pretty much opportunity to take the role, then the person who is clearer will beat you to it. Yeah.
If you look at the top of your mind, what key statistics about the industry stand out for you that job seekers would love to know?
Let me show up 3. The first is that Africa is rising in relevance. Africa is the continent that still has untapped resources in abundance. Other places have, but ours have untapped in abundance. As in, they have not, the infrastructure to get to them is not yet even there. And so investment opportunities are still abundant. So a lot of investments are coming into Africa. The second is that we are currently almost neck and neck in the population with China and India. And we all know that China and India, their populations are very active and they are up there as growth, growing economies, but also strong economies. Tied to that is that where we operate, East Africa, is the number 1 growth area on the continent, number 1. We also are about 40% of the population of Africa. This region, Eastern Central Africa. In fact, once you include the Congos, we approach 50%. We also have the highest education rate in Africa. This East Africa bit. When you look at the statistics that speak about Africa, a lot of them speak to East Africa. So, going to the third aspect, I talked about Africa as a continent, the region as very critical. And on that second point of the region, we speak the same language, well, some French, but culturally quite similar. And we're a bloc, but not political bloc. But economically, you can do business in the different countries. There may be some challenges, but you can do businesses there. This all speaks to opportunities for private sector growth and hence job opportunities growth. On the continent, coming to my third point, on the continent, the next 5 to 10 years, the biggest projects are by far the ones on the East Coast. Okay, we've got, if we come down from Mozambique, we've got maybe up to $120 billion on the gas opportunities offshore. You come to Tanzania, you've got Zanzibar, the Blue Ocean, you've got a lot of the railway line, you've got the port in, I think it's Kigoma, Tanganyika, you've got the pipeline that's going through there, you've got gas as well in Tanzania. You come up to Uganda, you've got the oil exploration here, the refineries, central processing facility, the pipeline also together, a lot of minerals sector. You've got Kenya itself, geothermal, and a lot of projects out there. It is a very strong financial center. Of course, there is Congo. You know, it's part of East Africa now.
True.
There are issues there, but those issues one day will settle. And so there are opportunities. These opportunities, and remember, Ethiopia is also close to Sudan, and it could be East Africa. So someone who sets up shop in East Africa looks at all these markets. That is opportunity. The youth need to skill themselves to be relevant for these opportunities. That's really now on them. Yeah.
That's a good point, and brings me to my next question. You have a skilling arm where you help these youth.
Yes.
Tell me about that one.
When we started the skilling arm about 12 years ago, a lot of people thought we were crazy. This is a government role. It's not a government role. Government gives you the basics. You have to upskill. So our skilling arm speaks to special skills. Special skills to special needs. The welders, pipeline welders, structure welders as well. The electricians are specific skill set also, higher standards, because these have to be dealing with the electricity needs of the region. We know how those big projects all the way from Ethiopia through Kenya into Uganda, you know, the different big Karuma, all the way down into Kenya, Rwanda, into Mozambique, and now also stretching into Southern Africa, Zambia and stuff like that. Electricians are going to be needed, not only for those grid works, but also solar, alternative energy. Then we've got safety. Because of all these industrial projects, safety needs are high on the agenda. So we train in those areas. Work at heights, occupational safety matters, vocational, OSHA, yes. So we started to invest in that space 12 years ago because we could see the growth. And right now, we've built capacity. It's a very difficult space because you have to build capacity of trainers, you have to build capacity of your own processes of delivering the service, build capacity of the infrastructure to do it, tap into the right partners, identify the right certifications, all that we've been doing over time. So we feel now we are in sync with the international requirements. We have a lot of accreditations from Europe, South Africa, and the US. And we're already offering these services to some of these international players, Total, CNOC, Sinopec, the CPPs, even the Chinese. You know, because a lot of people say the Chinese are taking the work. But, you know,
you're giving them
do the service, you know, because they have the skill. You have the skill. And you have the certificate. Maybe, yes, some situations may be blocking out people, but once you have a reason to argue out, then you can have a foot in the door. Upskilling is very critical, Herbert. even ourselves, we have to continuously upskill. The information age found us when we graduated.
Yes.
So if you didn't upskill, it would pass you by, and it become very relevant. This is the same thing with the younger population. These who are getting into the job market, those who are in the job market, using the tools that are available. We're talking about AI tools. We're talking about all kinds of automation systems. Use them to improve your productivity. That's so critical. And that is center to our model of productivity, increased productivity, people productivity. That's really what our model speaks to. And you can only do that through continuous upskilling. Yeah.
There is a book that I have here. And I think this book will address, or at least I hope you know about this book. It's called The Future of No Work.
Yes, I love it.
You are aware of it?
Yeah.
It talks about a future of no work. Master AI, gain superpowers, earn more, and live by your own rules.
Yes.
What do you have to say about the content of this book?
There is a lot of misconception about those facets. And what do I mean by that? Misconception is that AI is taking away our work. Yes, it's taking away some of the repetitive tasks. But creativity and the like, where you can introduce new ways of assessing an environment, that is still there for us. So in your role, if all you do day in, day out is repetitive tasks the same way you found them being done, then yes, it's going to take your work away because you will be automated out of work. However, if every day you come to work, you find ways of doing it better, then that's a new way of doing things. And the second thing is you can think through it your way from basics, or you can use the tools that exist. How do you blend them into your role so that you can improve your productivity? That's how you can make yourself continuously relevant. That aspect of no work means that the interpretation of work changes. It's more on the output. How was the output delivered? Whoever needs the work done does not care whether it's from a computer or from a human being. Was it done to the standard that they want? Yes. If you can use those tools and do the work, when they say no work, my interpretation of it is that it is not anymore addressing physical movement. If you remember the physics definition of work,
yes.
Right? There has to be distance and stuff. And exertion of energy. Now you're using tools, work done is going to be measured differently, right? It's on the result rather than the process. If there's some human aspect to it, then the human aspect is reduced because of the introduction of tools, which could be AI tools, machine learning tools, etc. So it is a space that cannot be ignored because it's already here with us. So blending with it is really what I take as the future of no work, because now we're using tools. It's not work done defined in energy and distance times, but rather in the output. Yes.
You have been really successful in this field, and congratulations to you. We did see that you have received several awards during your career, and I really don't know the impact of these on you or what you had to do to get them. But when you look back at the entire continuum of these awards over all this time, which one stands out and speaks to you, and how did it change you?
The CEO awards. The company has received quite a few awards. There are CEO awards, and one of them was the Tanzania CEO award. What I liked about it is that Tanzania has always been perceived as a difficult market. But what we've seen about Tanzania is that you've got to be deliberate on what value you're bringing to the market. And my whole life in the business world has been about what value are we bringing. And so to be recognized for me in one of our toughest markets was a big thing for me. And it gave me added impetus to keep at it. Tanzania is a very interesting economy. A lot of people think it's slow and sleepy and stuff like that. It's not. It's just moving at its own pace. And it's the only economy that has continuously progressed. There have been challenges in Uganda, up and down. There have been challenges in Kenya as well, of recent. But Tanzania continues at a steady pace. It may be slow and increasing now, but always increasing because they add. They don't deduct. They always add. So being a player in that market and being recognized was a big reminder for me to keep at it. Yeah,
that's nice. Congratulations again.
Thank you
about that. That's nice. We have a rapid fire session of questions. Quick, just the top answer. Nothing is right, nothing is wrong. I have the questions. I want to share this with you and see what comes from the top of your mind, okay? So, the first one. And the answer doesn't have to be right. You can give me a range, okay? How big is your database of applicants right now?
Over 100,000.
100,000, okay. What is the highest salary that a person has ever received using your company?
It's about $70,000 per month. Yes.
Wow. We need to talk about that person. 70,000.
Yes. An expert high-risk job.
Wow. Okay. What's the most surprising job interview answer you've ever heard?
The person indicated that they're coming to work so that they can prepare themselves to become politicians.
Okay, that's interesting. If you could instantly remove one bad habit from job seekers, what would it be?
Writing long CVs that are not clear.
It's not necessary.
Not necessary.
You mentioned that one. I like it. Okay. What is one job with the highest demand in Uganda right now that no one is talking about?
The safety.
The OSHA roles?
Yes.
Oh, really?
Safety officers, yes.
Okay. What's one outdated hiring practice that should be retired for good?
Controversial, but minimum degree. Minimum education.
Okay.
Degree as a minimum education.
Right. Because people could have learned from the job and they're very skilled.
Yes.
And you want them to have a bachelor's, which they really don't need. They could have upskilled using this process and they are learning from you directly.
Absolutely. And by the way, the person whom I talked about doesn't have a degree.
The one of the 70K? Wow. That's a clear indicator. I like that one. I like that one a lot. Okay. If you could instantly give every Ugandan job seeker one skill, what would it be?
Safety training.
Safety training?
Yes.
It's a big deal, eh?
Very big. In all aspects. It talks about hygiene, cleanliness, neatness, looking out for risk hazards. It's applicable in our daily lives, on the roads, in our building structures, causes of accidents, causes of death, near misses, mishandling of budgets, all that.
Wow. Okay. What's one career advice tip you used to believe but you no longer do?
Continuously adding to my certificates.
A long list of okay, I agree with you that one. I agree with you. I almost named organizations. I agree with you. Having a 7 certificates is of no value, really. I agree with you on that one.
Especially if you have not practiced. If you're practicing them, absolutely perfect. If the certificates are arising out of your practice and validated from an assessment, perfect. But continuous degrees.
Diploma here, extent, yeah, I agree.
Professor.
Okay. What's the strangest job title you've ever come across?
Hygiene officer. Hygiene officer is the office cleaner. Very appropriately titled.
Okay, I'll let that one
but
go.
Often abused.
Yes. Hygiene officer.
Very, very important.
I agree. If they don't show up, you know immediately that they didn't come.
You'll feel it.
You'll feel it. Okay. If you weren't in recruitment, in this business, if you are not in this business, what other career would you have pursued?
Engineering services for sure.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Creating things a better way. I think engineering and maintenance is our biggest hindrance to growth as Africa. Yes. It's often outsourced and hence it's expensive to live as an African because of those roles. Yeah.
Okay, next one. How many people have you been able to get jobs for from the time it started up till today?
I think it's about 20 to 25,000. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. It's been big numbers. And some of them come and give you stories how they never thought they would ever get a job because they knew no one. And they now have families. I'll tell you a story. There's a guy, and just to divert, there's a guy I met about a year ago. He told me of a time when he was told by the client that I insisted that they consider him because of his experience in having operated in the north. The role was in the north. The person who was being considered over him and him not being considered at all had a lot more credentials. But the client apparently went with my advice, and the person got the role. And he was shocked because his parents died in the war. He'd grown up in those IDPs and was doing voluntary work, got some NGO work, but was doing work on the ground that was so relevant to the role. And when he was given the role, now he was a very senior officer. And he met me at a restaurant and, someone was introducing me and said, "Really?" And then he told me the story. And he was breaking down.
Of course.
Yes. And he said, "I didn't know you, you didn't know me, but I was told about you. And thank you, because you changed my life."
Wow.
Yeah. So that's why we do what we do. One of the 25,000.
Right. Patrick, thank you for coming on the show. It has been very interesting, very intriguing. I have learned a lot. I'm sure our viewers who are looking for jobs have new insight from the literal horse's mouth. And I do wish you success in everything that you do. I wish you continued growth. From the time that we've been speaking, I saw that realism coming out from the way that you're speaking. I see that you speak with passion. You like what you do, and you're focused on getting true value for the client and also for the job seeker. The example that you gave of the guy who found you at the restaurant, is a strong testament to this. So I really wish you success, continued growth, and congratulations on everything.
Thank you. I wish you success too. Yeah.